I'm never asking any of these men that I'm training with, like, what's the shortcut? The shortcut is that you have to do the work. The shortcut is finding the right people to teach you. The shortcut is finding expert people to train with you, to teach you anything. And that's been my shortcut in business. I found the best professors that I could. I went to the best business school. Today I get to chat with Marvin Vettori. Yeah, Marvin's one of the top ranked guys at 185 at the UFC right now. He's had some really tough fights, literally with some of the toughest guys in the world. He had Adesanya a hard time. I saw your Paulo Costa fight, which I thought was extraordinarily impressive. That the endurance and toughness, and then a lot of changes last minute in that particular one. That you agreed to a certain weight, and then he's not going to make weight, and so on and so on. And so a lot of volatility that you still took the fight that a lot of people would have backed out of, and did it exceptionally well. It was very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, that fight week was pretty insane. Like every fight week had his own story, but that one was definitely particular because so much stuff happened. Like this guy was just like every time they would just call me with some crazy new news, and I'm like, all right, no problem. Just let's make sure that he shows up. Because when I'm ready, I'm ready. I don't care, to be honest. I would have fought in my heavyweight. I mean, I kind of fought in my heavyweight because by the time he put back the weight, he's probably, he was probably like 220, 226, 228, something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I didn't care. So, when you're ready, I think in my head, that's the right mentality. Like, you just fight whoever, It's about you. It's not about the opponent, But, I mean, a lot of people don't see that way, They're like, oh, like the weight, this and that. And I mean, it is, you are taking a risk when, especially 20 pounds, you let him, the guy, like your opponent being 20 pounds over, but it is what it is, I mean, if you feel like if you feel like you should do it, you should do it. I mean, and I felt like I never had like one single doubt that I wasn't going to do it, so.
Some of the guys that have the the biggest fanfare or the most respected guy in your sport have that sort of attitude. Is like, I'm a fighter, and put me in, we're going to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
And there is a risk in that, and I think that I certainly recognize that, and I'm sure a lot of other people know the difference of like when your opponent can't make weight or they keep changing the terms, and you still show up and win, it says an awful lot about your skill set, your tenacity, and your preparation to do that. Would you share a bit of your early life with my folks that, they see me sit down with a lot of world champions and top ranked contenders, and we chat about you beat up some of the toughest men in the world, but that never starts that way, There's always something that happens earlier that puts that thought in your head that you don't want a normal life, that you're gonna do difficult things and earn a special place in the world. What was that story for you?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like fighting was always in my genes, like I always fought since a really young age, even just like, scrapping with other kids, like growing up. But yeah, I mean, I come from a very small town, and I always wanted to get more out of it, And I mean, I don't know. I was always like, as a kid, I was always like you could tell I fell out of place. I felt like, even though I love my hometown back home, and I'm like, I really believe like at the end of everything, I'm gonna go back and live the rest of my life over there, especially when I'm over with everything. But I could see that, like, I could, like, looking back, I can see that I wanted more, and I had to find a way out, I had to find a way to seek for more. And so, I mean, I think a part of it has to be, like, in your genes, It's just, you don't want to, you just don't want to, like, be like the others, and, like, and then, I just remember watching these videos about Fedor Emelianenko and watching like this pride fights, and I'm like, man, like these guys are superhumans, and I'm like, I want to be like them, And then here I am being one of those guys, So it was pretty cool.
One of the things that first caught my attention about MMA, more than a decade ago, was Fedor, and I remember a friend invited me over. He's watching one of Fedor's fights, and he was the main event on this card. I don't remember who he fought because I wasn't paying any attention to the sport until this time. But Fedor he's just calm. He's very stoic, very calm. And the other men, they try to hype themselves up or get themselves excited. Fedor just calm. And he walked in the ring. This might not be factually true, but the way that I remember it is maybe like 40 seconds. He just destroyed this man about 40 seconds time, and very calm, gets his hand raised, very calm, walks back out of the ring. It just didn't even seem exciting to him that he just a part of his day, taking care of business. And that man, that really imprinted in my head of like, that's a different type of man. That's a tough man.
Yeah.
But, so you growing up small town in Italy, and I've been to Italy a few times. I've been to Rome. I've been to Vatican City, of course, and you went to San Marino. Driven across the country to go to. Most people don't know what San Marino is, but the little landlocked country near Rimali Airport, I believe. Yeah, that's a long journey. There's a lot of people, in the U.S. or a few other places. There's a lot of people there's gyms and whatnot. Like, what is that journey from small town Italy to be like, I'm gonna go be somebody to, fight the toughest men in the world and be respected as one of those toughest men in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I never. And I mean, looking back, I was really naive, but I had this idea of what I wanted, and I just went for it, and then slowly found out more about everything. Slowly, bit by bit, though. Like it wasn't like I'm planning from the get-go to get right away to the top. It's just not possible, So slowly, I was just like, oh, let me get to here, and then when I was there, like I would see more, and then more and more, and. That was a little bit also my strength, and I was a little bit naive back then because I didn't know anything about the game. I just saw these guys that just know like I like to fight, and I just liked the intensity about how like this sport was, how like MMA was, it was real. It was like there was no stoppages unless you lose. There was no stoppages in the fight, and I'm just like, I want to do this, I think this really suits me. This is my, this is what I have to do in my life, And then, I started out just like, so I come from Mezzo Corona, it's like a 5,000 people village basically. And I was I was taking the train all over to this like from Mezzo Corona, like I was taking the train maybe like 45 minutes away to like Rovereto, and then like do one training over there, then on my way back take another train, and then stop in Trento that was like in the middle, do another training, then come back. And man, I just remember being like at the train station and just waiting that train. I'm like, one day, like I kept reminding myself, like, you're gonna remember these days. And it's crazy because I mean, almost like 10, 12 years after, I came this far, and it's crazy that I made it out of like such a small town. It almost like feel like I was the chosen one from Italy almost, because yes, of course I earned everything, but at the same time it's crazy because so many things could have gone wrong, and a lot of things went wrong, and I still managed to fix them and stuff. But so much stuff could have just like went wrong at the wrong time, and like everything could have just like fall apart. But yeah, man, I mean, I just had like this strong will and this strong like idea of like of me becoming like like one of the best fighters in the world, and I just like went for it.
There's I'm sure plenty of things go wrong along the way, and I know in my path of I started my entrepreneurial path maybe I was 7 years old. And it was 35 years for me. I had this conversation with Mike Chandler. We were in Florida a while ago, and we're in the back of a Rolls-Royce Phantom that is a vehicle that I had down there. And Chandler's talking about overnight success. He says, well, I spent 12 years at Bellator. Is 3-time champion, won the most fights in Bellator history. Comes over to UFC a bit later. He says in 12 months at UFC, he got more attention and more publicity and so on than his first 12 years, because it's a very different organization. And So he says, now people didn't know who he was, and they treat him like, like it's an overnight success. And he's like, well, it only took me 20 years. He's like, I've been an athlete every day for the last 20 years of show up for wrestling, and then developed to be the man who he is. And we laughed about that. I said, I made an awful lot of money in the last couple of years. It only took me 35 years of building those foundations that, then when you make 10 million, 20 million in a year, you don't think, you're like, well, it took me 35 years to do
course,
that.
Yeah, of course. No, there's no such a thing as an overnight success, And if there is, it's not solid, and you just, unless you're really, really smart and you did have the knowledge somehow before, and then it's not overnight success anyway, you're bound to just pretty much like lose it all again, because, if you build it up slowly, every time you build it, then, it's almost like, you build some solidity wherever you're at, and then you build on top of it, and then you build on top of that. If you just go up like, wherever you're at, then you're gonna make contacts. You're gonna understand the game better. You're gonna know people, and then you're gonna set yourself at that level, and then from there you keep building. Like if from one day you just like go all the way up, then you're up there, but you don't know how to. Like a lot of times you don't know how to. I feel like
you're not gonna stay there.
Yeah, you're not gonna stay there. So, but no, for sure. I mean, like you.
I tell my clients,
being an athlete, I think, in terms of like effort and reward, is not, and for reward I mean money, is definitely not the best ratio. Like the effort is way higher than the reward, especially in MMA. And so if you're after money from the get-go in MMA, yeah, it's not the right sport. I don't feel like it's the right sport. You have to start for a different reason. And then of course, man, I mean, we all know how much money are important, even though they're not everything. But you cannot, like, I don't think it's the right mindset. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's the right mindset to think money from the get-go when you get into MMA. Definitely not.
In that sport, in your sport, there's many people that retire, they never have $1 million. Most
million
people,
or billion?
Million.
Million.
Many people retire from your sport. They're extremely talented. They don't even make $1 million net
sure,
worth.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that you have to do that for other reasons. You have to do that because you love what you're doing. You love that type of challenge. And there's a few people at the top that make an awful lot of money, and that's great. And congratulations. But there's a lot easier ways to make money than getting choked and punched in the head.
Exactly, yeah.
So a normal person doesn't understand how difficult that is. I'm training with some guys that are former champions of, Paulie Malignaggi is my boxing coach, and Jake Shields helps me with MMA. And these people come, we train, they come to my home every 4 weeks and stay with me for a few days, and we work out, and then have other men that, Tito Ortiz has come over, Mike Chandler's come over, Frank Mir, and guys like this that are multi-time champions, very talented. And the effort that goes into that like, even when we're, polite and nice in our training. I have bruises everywhere. I have, the first time Jake really choked me like a guillotine, my throat hurt every day for 15 days, like a front guillotine choke. Yeah. And then it only hurt sometimes for the next 15 days. And that's what you do. That's how you're spending your life right now. So they don't understand the effort that goes into that, most people, but it has to be something you love. And from a business perspective, people have this crazy idea, say, I want to make a lot of money. And when I hear somebody say just that, like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I want to make a lot of money too. But I think to myself, a second later, I think, well, what would I have to do for that to be necessary? Who would I have to help? If I could help other people to accomplish their goals, they're happy to help me too. So I always think like that. And if you're only focused on money, you're probably not going to get any. You're probably not going to get much at all. And something that you said I think is very profound and worth talking about is about building those deep foundations of, I'm never asking any of these men if I'm training with, like, what's the shortcut? The shortcut is you have to do the work. The shortcut is finding the right people to teach you. The shortcut is finding expert people to train with you, to teach you anything. And that's been my shortcut in business. I found the best professors that I could. I went to the best business school. I grew up very poor. We didn't have shit. I just had, like welfare stuff from the government that I was very embarrassed by this, and I hated this as a child. And I wanted to make sure my adult life was...
it makes it all sweeter right now, right?
I wanted to make sure that I earned my place. I could have anything I want, I could have anything I want. And, I ended up with, at my age, I have more than I ever thought I could have at my age. But I know there's a lot more to do yet. But you can't be doing, if you're just thinking, how to get money. Well, money is just your freedom. Money allows you to have the freedom to spend your time how you want to. It's the number one thing money buys. You don't have to spend your time doing things that you really don't like. And money allows you to not be around people that you don't want to be around. Money allows you to go places and do things that provide for your family, provide for your loved ones, and give them luxuries that they might not otherwise have. But again, to get the money, you're going to have to do something in the world. You're going to have to provide some usefulness. And the sooner a person gets resigned to that idea that you're going to have to learn things, you're going to have to work hard, you're going to have to learn more, you're going to have to work hard. And when you were saying that you build yourself to a certain level, and then you can go a little farther, and then you can build yourself up to the foundation is stronger, and you can go a little farther. And like that is the shortcut. Where people get into trouble is they want something too quick, and then they don't have a strong foundation. And even if they're accidentally successful for the short term, it's only for the short term that you're not going to keep that level of success.
You see it in MMA a lot of times, where like there, a few guys come in the UFC, and it relates to business too, because you see these guys, they come in, and the first 3-4 fights they're really successful because they get like not the best opposition in the beginning, and their style is a little bit weird. And maybe they're a little bit they're more physical than other people, and they get away with a lot of things, and they'll maybe win like 3, 4, 5 fights, and they get all hyped up, and then when they start like finding real opposition, they lose, and then they keep losing, and it's all like up and down, and then they almost end up disappearing because they were good, but then the foundation to like that higher level, they will get you to like elite and eventually champion. It's not there yet, and then MMA, since it's not boxing where like, and I love boxing, but boxing you get like you can sometimes, if you're in the right position, you can pick a little bit of you can pick a few fights and then have a really good fight, like a really hard fight, and then pick another few and then get a real fight. And MMA, everyone like once you get to a certain level, everybody's gonna be game, and they're gonna expose you. If you're not solid, they're gonna expose you. And this is a good example of like even in business, because you'll rise fast, then you start like facing real different challenges, hard challenges, and you start getting exposed and like, oh shit, like, I can't handle this, and then you lose, and then your game, you were relying on your game to be like on your boldness, on you being physical, but then at that level, like you these things don't matter anymore, and then you start not doing so well.
Anything that I tried to do in my life, I wanted to have that. I wanted to have lasting success. I never tried to do get rich quick, or whatever the new trendy bullshit is. I thought if something's been working for a couple thousand years, probably that's going to keep working. For sure. Whatever the new bullshit is that everybody's excited about is probably not going to be around in a couple thousand years. So, there's people out there that it's not so much my audience. Most people in my audience, their brain works well. They're already good at something. They want to learn more. They're already successful in some way. They want to learn to be more financially successful, have more freedom. So they're willing to put in that work. The few people that want to get rich quick, I don't know why they're here. I wish they should go anywhere else. That it's not something that I even talk about. It's really for people that are very naive, and I feel bad for the terrible outcomes they're about to experience with that sort of thinking. But without the foundations, there's no lasting success. Is the best thing you could do for yourself is very much what Marvin said, whether that's in MMA or in business, that like you have to learn the foundations of business, like the foundations of entrepreneurship. How does a business function? You have to learn the boring things of accounting and finance and economics and statistics and mathy things that a lot of people don't find exciting. I didn't find some of it exciting while I was learning these things in life or in university. I find the outcomes exciting. The outcomes are very exciting. But if you don't understand some of these, foundational things, you can't win. It's not possible. And if you accidentally had a little success in the short term, you're likely to be very embarrassed soon that you're not going to maintain that trajectory. You're not going to be able to do that. So I like to buy things that are boring. I buy boring things like real estate, oil and gas companies, things that they make a lot of cash that I know my life is paid for. If I do nothing, my dividends and distributions, the companies pay for more than I want in life, more than I care to spend. And then you have some appreciation on top of that. But everybody right now, they have some craziness in their head. They're going to get rich overnight. They're going to get rich quick. And if they did this, you see this with lottery winners. So that they don't know about money, and then they get a chunk of money, and oftentimes they destroy all of that money and make their life worse.
You see a lot of athletes end up doing that, and because, like rich, it's like in the head. If you're rich, you're in the head, and I mean, of course, you're also on the bank, but if if you put like $1 million or even 10 million into a bank of like a guy that has no knowledge about nothing, about how business works and how to create more income and stuff, it's just a matter of time that it's gonna finish. And you put 100,000 or 50,000 or even 30,000 in a bank of somebody that knows how to make it work, and those 30 might turn into 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, whatever. So,
what is your training like? Something that I've talked about with a lot of the athletes that I've talked to is like you have to behave like a champion for a long time before you're going to become champion. You already have to hear. Is a thought that you brought up when you said about this with money, that you have to already have the right thoughts in your head, and so you have to engage in the right behaviors consistently. You don't wake up one day and you're accidentally fighting for the championship belt. You have to behave like a champion for a few years at least before you're going to have those opportunities. What is your experience with this?
It's absolutely true, and it's not just saying it and just like thinking that you are. It's believing in it, just so you do all the right things that a champion would do to keep remaining a champion, or you eventually then become champion. It's like, every second of your life, you're deciding if you want to do the right decisions towards your goal or if you're not doing it, And, you can just decide to eat better, to sleep better, to train more, to look after your body more, and so on, And every second you have to make that decision. And you got to know that if you don't, you're not working towards your goal. And you can get away with a lot of things, and then, at the end of the day, we're not robots either. But you need to know that, if you want to accomplish things that maybe 0.001% of people accomplish, you gotta be willing to do things that just that percentage of people are gonna do. It's just, being an athlete is not easy. Especially even MMA. You're the one. It's not like boxing. Even boxing is really hard. But at least boxing, you have 4 or 5 champions. MMA is basically you're like the lineal champion of your weight class, and there are even less weight class. So it's and then it's the consistency. You have to it has to be consistent. It cannot just be you watch a video, you're motivated that day, you're gonna act like you're the champ. The next day you're gonna go out and just waste yourself and just get out, drink, get drunk, and then it's just not. It doesn't work that way. I always say this game requires full commitment, and this is in everything, but this game, I think, even more than others, MMA requires full commitment from the get-go, especially from the get-go. The better you get at working harder by, you minimize the bullshit so you can get away with more things, even working harder. And I feel this is in business too. But in the beginning, you just gotta forget about anything but MMA, And it requires full commitment for sure.
you use the word motivation in there, and I have a few million followers on social media, and they write me, some of them that don't know me well yet, they say, Derek, what do I do? Sometimes I'm not motivated. Or the worst, the most disgusting one to me is that, tell me something to motivate me. And I said, well, you're going to be a broke bitch. If you don't get some motivation yourself, you're going to stay a broke bitch. I see why you're struggling. I'm not motivated a lot of times. There's many times in my life that I wasn't motivated to go do something. I didn't feel like it today. And I remind myself, well, the success gods, they don't give a shit what I feel like today. They only care about the outcomes that I create today. And I got to get up and go and create some outcomes. I have to go make some things happen. And there must be many times that maybe you weren't motivated, but you were disciplined or...
Exactly. That's why you got to build up that discipline. No matter of confidence, motivation, you just have to know that if your stuff went wrong through the day, but you just need to know that you build that level of professionalism, that you're still gonna do your job 100%, no matter what happens. You just, I can be, I don't know, whatever happens, I still know that I'm still gonna train twice a day. I still know that I'm gonna do my job. And yeah, maybe, my head might not be there 100% that day, but I still know that I'm gonna do everything that I was supposed to do,
I talk about that with them, that a professional is someone who gets results consistently. If you really think of what the definition of what is a professional anything, any area of life, a person who is professional is somebody who could get a result consistently. You go to a doctor you have a medical problem, you go to a doctor because they're, with a high level of consistency, they're going to be able to help you with your problem. And a professional doesn't have to be motivated. They don't have to be in a good mood to get that outcome. They might have a headache. They can still get the outcome. Maybe they didn't sleep so much last night. They could still get the outcome. You imagine you went to a hospital. Imagine you had a bad injury. You go to a hospital, and the doctor says, "Oh, hey, that looks bad, but I'm just about to go on my lunch break."
Yeah.
And there's a soccer game this afternoon, so maybe I'm going to stop back in a few hours if I feel motivated. This would be a terrible doctor. People are going to die if your doctor behaves that way. So it should be a ridiculous idea in your mind that you would have professional outcomes while engaging in amateur behavior, that you're going to have to do things that, the most important time to do tough things is like when you don't want to do them. The most important time to show up for your success is when you really don't want to, and you're like, well, if I want professional outcomes, I'm going to have to engage in professional behaviors. You're going to have to do. I love what you said, that somebody wants an outcome that one in 100,000 people on Earth might experience, or 1 in a million people might experience. Well, then you're going to have to engage in behaviors that the other 99,999 people, they would not work so hard. They wouldn't make this effort.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous to think that you'd have those results without making a proportional effort. I looked at this the other day because I've chatted with a lot of people, particularly from UFC. There's only about 80 UFC champions ever. The organization is around since 1993, and I've chatted with something like 20 of them. I've talked to, sat down, had an interview, had a conversation with, and there's only about 80 ever. So to have that anchor in your mind, you brought this up with boxing. In boxing, there's 4 belts, and there's more weight divisions and so on. You've had title fights, and you'll have more in the future. And I hope you become a champion. I think you certainly have what it takes to do that. And it's such a rare thing. It's such a difficult journey, and such a rare thing that you could have exceptional skill sets, but your competition does too. And every day. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's a tough journey that you have to have every day focus, because your competition does. Tito Ortiz and I had this conversation, and he's a 6-time champion back in the day, and I said, how did you keep, what did you think about, or what were the things in your head that allowed you to keep your belt for so long? And he says, well, if I'm not training, I know my competition is. If I'm not lifting weights, my competition is. If I'm not going to my kickboxing lesson, my competition is. If I don't have the best coaches, one of my competitors is going to hire the best coaches. And that stood out to me, that it mirrored my life a lot, that I wanted to have the best teachers, the best mentors. That I did not have these as a child. I had a lot of shitty mentors. I had a lot of bad role models that you learn, well, I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to do that. But I didn't have good role models. And I made sure as an adult that I was around people that were thinking differently, that they were engaging in exceptional behaviors and paying that price to have exceptional outcomes.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I always say, like, it's not just about getting better. It's about learning how to get better on the way. Also, it's like, I mean, the more you go further, the more you have to learn how to learn better, how to get better at learning. Also, like you wanna improve, like, you know, the way like your coaches, like, you know. You want to also, like learning is a skill too. You want to improve that skill of learning also, and so the more that, you know, that's why I always say, like, and you can see on my fights, every fight I'm better than the one before. It's because I don't just like work on get better on, like, for me, the more I get better, the faster I get better also, because learning is a skill, like I said, and you gotta keep, like, you know, you gotta learn how to learn better on the way. So definitely, like, you know, understanding who are the right coaches for you, who are the one that, like, can, you know, you need to have to like get an eye for what can suit you, and like what, like, could make you better all the time. And even, you know, and learning can come from everything. Like, you can just watch and learn, you can just talk with somebody and learn. Of course, coaches, of course, you know, you put in the work, but, you know, it has to be like a constant. Like, they're like, you always have to think how I can get better at learning also, and not just me becoming better.
If you practicing the same thing, you might get good at that one thing, but your competition again is moving past you. That you have to be thinking, what are the best practices currently available, and where are things going in the future? That if you could be there first, you have a tremendous advantage. You have tremendous difference in outcomes in business or in any endeavor in life. And I like what you said about the accelerated learning is another topic that I frequently speak about with clients. That you get to compound the learning over time as you learn new things. You know, as you build out that web in your head of, you know, some things about finance, you know, some things about accounting, you know, some things about psychology, you know, some things about you know, fighting skill sets, you know, self-defense, etc. The more areas that you have a proficiency in, the easier it is to learn something additional, sure. Because you're like, oh, that's relates to this, sure, and relates to that. And a person who's not taking those challenges on, they think that you know, you're putting yourself at a grave disadvantage if you think intellectual resources don't matter. The best investment you could make is in your education. And you can't just be lazy about it. If if you went to the same schools that everybody else did, and you engaged in the same behaviors as everybody else when you were there, I mean, that'll get you a $50,000-$60,000 a year income. But you know, it's certainly not going to put you. You know, there's people out there that are making billions of dollars a year with a B. It's not going to put you anywhere near that. And you think in entrepreneurship, if a person, this is a crazy thing to me, why anybody who has a good work ethic, or someone who's, you know, psychologically thinks like you or like me, why would you go get a job? Because a job is somebody who gave up on their real potential. And I'm not mad at them people. I don't mean to make fun of them. It's just like, I mean, I'm happy somebody's available to make my coffee. I'm happy that there are people available that when I go to the airport, they take my luggage. They get it from, you know, the check-in to the plane. They load it up very gently, of course. I'm happy the economy is diverse enough that people can do these little things that it wouldn't be the best use of my time. But for those of you that are a bit more ambitious, you know, the path is pretty clear. In entrepreneurship, the best entrepreneurs in the world are the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. Some of them have, you know, over $200 billion now, close to $300 billion. And you don't have to be a best in the world entrepreneur. If you were an okay entrepreneur, if you could build a small business and have good foundations and sustain it to keep it, you know, viable, I mean, you could make $500,000 consistently, couldn't you? And a normal person doesn't get that in their job. So I think if you had just a proficiency in that of business, that you could make a few $100,000, $500,000, maybe $1 million a year, and that's a lot less suffering. You have to front load the work. You'll be working harder earlier in life, but you have a lot more leisure later. And just shifting that to work harder early, so you can enjoy those intellectual benefits, the intellectual compounding that you've talked about, the social compounding of having higher quality people around you and higher quality ideas in your head. Man, if lazy people knew the value of that, they would work harder earlier just so they could be lazy longer later. It'd be in your selfish best interest to do so.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like you said, like, from understanding one thing deeply, you can understand 10,000 more things, like, that's why I'm, more than everything, of course, like, my sport taught me a lot of things, but more than everything, it taught me hard work, and through hard work, people, like you said, they're looking for, because, people like stories, they want you to tell you, they like to hear stories. They like to hear, like, there were secrets, there's something hidden that people, they love that, it's just, I think it's part of our nature, actually, like, we like how do you call them, like fables, not like,
yeah, fable, fairy tale.
Fairy tale, yeah, we just, I think it's part of our nature, but in reality there aren't, like, I mean, there's no such a thing. It's just, but they don't want to hear that, they don't want to hear that. They I think, like, they kind of want to see, they want to hear that, like, that guy got there because of something particular or special, so they kind of, like, feel better about them. Like, oh no, he was there because of that. I couldn't do that because I wasn't like that. But in reality, everybody could do what that guy did, or what I'm doing, or, like, to be honest, or what you're doing, like, like, I mean, maybe not everybody, but a good amount of people, like a lot of people could have done it. It just, they just didn't want to put in the work. They didn't understand the value of hard work. And I see it all the time. I'm like, I have to, I see so many opportunities, but a lot of times I'm like, so much work should go into that thing that right now I'm focusing, and even it will make me even more money sometimes, but I'm like, what is right now my main goal in my life? And for me, is to become world champion in the UFC. So I'm like, regardless of the money, this part of my life, it's all about that. This is the full commitment. And of course, like, you still have to do the right moves. I'm not gonna just, like, spend all my money like stupid, because we make okay money, but we don't make, like, kind of like, NBA contracts or, like, NFL kind of contracts money. But yeah, I mean, the value of hard work is super important. I think it's the main thing in anything in life, I think.
What is your workout schedule? What does a normal week look like for you, just to maintain your current skills and to keep growing like you are?
Yeah, I try to train twice a day, every day, basically, 6 times a week. I hear a lot of people doing, like, 3, sometimes even 4, and I'm like, I don't know about you, but for me, it's not consistent. And I know I train hard, and I see a lot of people. But if you're consistent and you train hard, and the sessions are intense, and you're not taking steroids, you're not gonna be able to do more than two sessions per day, proper sessions per day, 6 times a week. You're just not. If you are, it's because you're not training hard enough in those sessions. Yeah. And even if you are doing them, it's not consistent. It's like it's not sustainable. And if by any chance you're able to, like, get away, get around these two things, I don't think your head it's gonna, when you do too much, your head is not gonna be able to elaborate it. It's just because your head has to be there. I mean, especially when this is the difference. Like, like I said, the more you get better, the more you improve. Also, you want to improve the way you're learning and all that. when you like now, when I'm there at a session, my head has to be there. Like you're not gonna show me one thing 10 times. You just need to show it to me one thing, and then I'm gonna drill it by myself if I think is right, and the next thing is gonna be part, and the next time is gonna be part of my game, you know. And so my head has to be there. So if I'm training 3-4 times a day, my head won't be there on the fourth session, on the third session. It's just not gonna happen. So on my and this is my way to do it. I always train twice a day, every day, 6 times a week. And of course, if I have to take like a day off, or like especially if I don't have a fight coming up, or like, or like a session off, I'll do it. But consistency is key, of course. Like right after my fight, a week after, I'm back in the gym, and my mentality is always like, a lot of people are like, why are you training so hard? You don't even have a fight. Because I got a lot of things to work on. That's my time to improve my crafts. And also this is a nice saying that it stick to my mind. Is like, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Mm-hmm. And it's really true. If you think that you're just staying there, you're actually getting worse. In anything, if you just think like that you're passively gonna get better, or like that by not doing something, or by not doing what you're supposed to do, you're just staying where you're at. No, you're getting worse. You're not. If you're not improving, you're getting worse. That's true.
One of my friends, he was a football player. He went to the NFL, but before the NFL, he played football in Miami back in the late '80s, early '90s, and at that time they were extremely dominant American football team. He won 3 national championships over there. He had, second highest scoring guy in college football history by the time he graduated. And he said his coach was a man named Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson's in the College Football Hall of Fame, later went to the NFL, coached there. He's also in the NFL Hall of Fame for his coaching skills. And he said all the time, exactly what you said. He said it was Jimmy's mantra that every day you're making a series of decisions that you're getting better or you're getting worse. And all those little decisions throughout the day to do more, to contribute higher, to invest in a better future. So if you're not actively getting better, then the default is you're getting worse. Your competition is going to pass you up.
Yeah, exactly.
And that stuck in my head a lot. That this man's been a friend of mine like 12 years, Carlos, and been a good mentor in real estate and some other general business things that he's done very well for himself later. But I'll go back to what you said. Like even when you're not training for like fight camp, you're still training the way most people do for a fight camp. Like a lot of guys have that type of schedule to go in 11, 12, 13 times a week when they have a fight coming up.
Yeah, because then you build up that habit and it just becomes normal. Like your standards of training is that one. That I see it all the time. Like and maybe sometimes I do I do the mistake of a little bit overtraining. Like. I don't believe in overtraining too much, but for some people I do, and at times I do maybe train a little bit too much. But but it's just because I build that standard for myself. I build that habit. Like for me, like training twice a day is just normal. And people are like, why? I'm like, man, like, I mean, I'm completely committed to this game. Like, what am I gonna do? This is like, if you take away training from my life, I'm just gonna sit on my couch and do nothing.
I think you send a signal to others in your space as well, where, Forrest Griffin is a buddy of mine, and Forrest invited me over to the Performance Institute. It's about a $20 million facility that the UFC provides to their athletes on the roster, and some of the OGs I think get in there too. But when you have that reputation in the training facility that you're showing up there, don't even have a fight on the schedule, but you're showing up there consistently, that you are letting other people know that there's some people they're not even going to want to take a fight with you. They know they're not prepared. They know they don't want that trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good signal. I went over there. Forrest invited me over. I walked through the other day, and there you are with your hand wraps, and we shared a little fist bump for a second in the middle of your training session. So it's a signal to your competition when you're there putting in the work, and other people see that makes people comfortable giving you opportunities that they couldn't give to somebody else, and it also lets other people know that if they're not holding themselves to a similar standard, then it's not possible for them to be competitive.
You don't want to scare them too much, because then they don't show up at the fights. You don't find no matchups. But
it's a high
so
quality
this is very
problem.
true. Like, I mean, fighting is. Fighting, it's such a beautiful sport because it's on so many levels. It's not just physical; it's psychological also. And like, definitely, like you can scare some people just by, you don't need to touch them. You can scare them in so many ways. So you can, like you say, just by the habits that you build up, by how you act, by that people get a feeling of what they're in for. Before they're in. So that's why I had a lot of people pulling out of fights, because they know I'm going to show up, and I'm always going to bring the work, and I'm always going to be ready. And there's no easy way out with a fight, fight with me.
So there's I say this with tremendous respect for other people in your sport, but maybe you'd explain to the audience that there's a lot of people that are extremely talented physically, but they lose the fight psychologically. Somewhere they get in their head and they give up. And I don't want somebody to interpret that as a comment of disrespect, because it's extraordinarily difficult. That if you're on the UFC roster at all, it's extraordinarily difficult, and you're a very talented person to be there at all, let alone ranked how you are, and having the quality of competition that you beat some really tough men. But maybe comment on that of like, there's a lot of guys that they just give up. That you see it happen.
Sure.
You see them. They say break your opponent in the fight. That it's more of a psychological thing than physical thing, and sometimes, yeah.
Every second in the fight, there's a psychological, like in any fight, we go through so many psychological moments that can decide a fight, And a lot of times it's the opposite of what you see sometimes, It's like you could be this close to finishing a fight, and then somehow the guy survives, and it works for the guy. It works for the guy that survived, because now he feels all confident. And a lot of times, and then he comes back, and maybe the guy's been so tired trying to finish the fight,
Mm-hmm.
And he was relying so much on finishing that then the card changed, the table turns, And that's why, like a strong mind, it's also flexible. It's like, all right, you got out, all right, I'm gonna put you back into that position that you were just in. But it will take a while to build that, and what happens with people that are really talented. First of all, like a lot of times, people that are really talented, they get to a very high level fast, and they don't build that foundation. And second of all, then they rely on that talent almost too much. And then when they find elite level competition, that talent doesn't work, because that talent is not refined to the level of, where it could work to the elite people. And it doesn't work. And when it don't work, it's like those people who hit so hard that they almost knock out everybody. And they go into a fight, they can't knock them, they can't knock this guy out. And they almost break themselves, They give up on themselves before the fight is actually over. They're like, "Fuck, I can't hurt this guy. What is he gonna?" This is a little bit like what happened with Costa. It's like, and he stayed in the fight until the end, but he just realized by the second round, he can't really hurt me, And I know he relies a lot on his power, He relies a lot on his punching power, his kicking power. And but he realized in the second round, I'm not gonna get this guy out, So, yeah, but the fight, this is the beauty of fighting, Fighting is on so many levels. It's not just physical.
Yes, if be physically strong, have the physical skill set, or the various disciplines of MMA, have solid striking skills, solid defense, in numerous positions, numerous situations,
and every day, doing the right decision. That's the fight every day.
The cardio, you could be very talented, but if the cardio's not there, you're going to be in trouble real soon. You know, if I have a good scramble for 2 minutes, if I'm with my coaches and I say, you know, 2 minutes of real activity, I'm out of breath right now. My cardio is not, you know, I'm not trying to be a pro fighter either, but you know, 2 minutes of real activity, you're out of breath, or I am. And to do 25 minutes in a champion fight, people don't understand. The people in the audience don't understand what this is.
It's because it also, like, you know, by the more you refine your skills, the more you get efficient with it. You know, that's why you see like people coming out of crazy scrambles and not even breathing hard because they're so accustomed to it, you know, and they became so efficient with it. Even though they look like they're doing like, you know, like they do like crazy movements, but they're actually doing like pretty effortlessly, you know, like they're not like, it looks like they're putting a lot of energy in it, but they're actually not. They're in their zone at that pace. So meanwhile, the other guy might not be, and that's why he gas out. But yeah, that's why like fighting is beautiful because of that.
I'm curious for your perspective on this. So we talked about the psychological toughness, and I think you touched on it great, but you might have more to add. Where I'm in the habit of making myself uncomfortable every day. I'm in the habit that, especially in negotiations, that you can't be a good negotiator in a business. If I can't negotiate, when I go to Europe, I've been like 66 countries. I've been to most of the countries in Europe. And if I go to Germany, Austria, one of these countries where they want to sell you bottled water, if I can't negotiate free water, if I can't get free water, how am I supposed to negotiate something that's important, multi-million-dollar deals, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases that I've helped other people with? So I make it a habit every day to have some social pressure, to have, you know, I'm not trying to be violent with someone or aggressive in that way, but to have some pressure or some tension with other men. I make that a habit every day. And I think that that's helped me a lot in business. It's helped me a lot in other areas of my life that I'm not a bully. I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time, but if someone's not treating me right, I don't mind having a little conflict. I don't mind having pressure between us. Yeah. How does that translate in the way that you think of you know, your skills, or how that might be useful to others in the world here? That like having that. What are some of your habits that allow you psychological toughness?
This is a really big point. Like, I mean, to force yourself to do things where, like, you know, the mind wants to always stay like at ease. It always look for comfort. It always look like, you know, like to get as less trouble as it can. You know, like to stay cozy. But you know, we all know that in life that, you know, it's a, you know, you can find that in a very short, in the short distance, but like you're not gonna find that in like on the short term, but you're not gonna find that in like the medium long term. Everything that is gonna give you like comfort on the short term, most likely on the medium long term is not gonna give it to you. So to put yourself into like some discomfort and to do things that you don't want to do, it's a very good way to build that like that strength, because, you know, regardless of what your mind tells you, you're still gonna do your job. You're still gonna you know, be productive. So I think that's actually my story for a lot of times. Like, no matter what, I'm always gonna do it. You know, I remember even in the beginning, I'm like feeling shit about a lot of things, and, you know, everything like seems like, you know, there is not really like a progression, because I'm in Italy and what am I gonna do with this? You know, where am I gonna go? Because there was no gym. I'm slowly realizing like the sport almost doesn't even exist in Italy. And I'm saying, no matter what, you're not gonna stop training. That's what I kept saying to my mind. I'm like, to myself, I was like, no matter what, no matter whatever happens, tomorrow you're gonna still do the same shit. You're gonna show up at the training. You're still gonna train. Still gonna go there twice a day, and then you're gonna be home, and, you know, you can think the same thing that you've been thinking, but you're still gonna put in the work, you know. So
did you have some important mentors or coaches at that time that they helped you keep that momentum?
No, that's another crazy kind of part. Like, I've always kind of been like my own coach in terms of like in MMA a little bit, but I definitely had like, you know, I became good at learning by watching, you know, just by like, and then by picking people's minds, you know, picking people's brain, and but no, I mean I had a few people that had a big influence on me, you know, but mainly just friends or like, you know, people who I got to know.
So other high quality like training partners or.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Could you share one of those stories of a specific training partner that you learned a lot from, or that kept your brain engaged during tough times?
Well, I mean, one of the guys that like I respect the most, and he's one of the most hard workers. I mean, he's probably the hardest worker in the room. You know, me and him, I feel like we always work like crazy, and when I first came to America, he was definitely, you know, one who I was looking up to, and like he showed me a lot of things that helped me out throughout, basically until now. And this guy is Benil Dariush. He's a beast. So yeah, I mean him for sure. Like this guy just he's relentless in his pursuit, you know. But he loves it. He's super passionate. And like I said, like that's his life. He's fully committed, and yeah, man. I mean, the only mistake, you know, like I said, I don't really believe in overtraining and this and that. But you know, for some guys like him, yes, you know, at times I feel like. But you know, he's a special human being also. Like, you know, he made it to like, he has like 20 UFC fights, I think. So what can you tell him? You know, he has his way, of course, but he definitely, like, his work ethic is just unbelievable. You know, so yeah, definitely learned a lot from him.
I just found it. I have to have this in my life, and anybody else that I've seen be highly successful, they had either, you know, great coaches, great teachers, great mentors, and it helps to have great training partners. That you certainly have to have one or the other. It helps if you have both, but you have to be around other people that have a, you know, similar work ethic and a similar vision for, you know, all right, we're here together right now, and we need to be over here. And they're keeping each other on track to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
You can do. I've done a lot of things by myself. It was always slower than when I had other people like that around me. That there's the amount of work that you do by yourself, and then there's a different level of work that you do because your coach, teacher, mentor told you have to do even more. And then if you're surrounded by great training partners that are people that are, you know, have similar goals, similar values, then you would have given up yourself, but you worked a little harder for the team. And you work a little harder yet to hold yourself accountable.
That's real motivation. It's not that motivation doesn't come, but that's real. Doesn't come from like the frivolous motivation might come from like, you know, like a video. You just like, you know, you feel good in that moment. But that actually is real motivation. That motivation stays and it's constant. You know, like you know, you see them improving. I'm like, you know, and you keep wanting to raise to the standards. You know, and again, like, and then people sometimes are like, oh, like. How do you always train twice a day, every day, like every time, like you know, you never stop? And I don't know, to have that chip on your shoulder, I believe that for real, it's definitely a little bit on the genes. You know, like that's definitely like, you know, and you know what? For me, it might come because it might be there all the time because I pretty much, when I decided to fully commit to this. I really fully committed. I really fully committed to this because I left everything behind. Like I left all my family behind. I'm here on my own, you know. So every time I wake up, that's my motivation. I'm like, I'm not in the place that I wanna be. Like my family's not here. Like, you know, I'm here for a reason. You know, I'm not just here like to hang around and just like have a good life. No, I have a reason right now. You know, so I don't need, you know, like. I wake up, I have like my Italian flag that full of blood that I used against the fighting with Hermanson, and that's all I need to see. I'm like, all right, let's go after it. You know? That's all I need to see.
You just wake up and look at a bloody flag and like, all right, more. You know, related to the Italian flag, my friend Paulie is my friend and my boxing coach. There's really there's a strong sense of pride for the people that came from the Italian community. That there's not a lot of people that did what you've done, or what Paulie's a multi-time champion, world champion boxer, and you have a clothing line that sort of embodies that, the Italian dream.
Yeah.
Can you
Absolutely.
share a little bit about that clothing line and what it means to you?
Yeah, no, in fact, it's called the Italian Dream Apparel. And yeah, man, I started out as like, pushing like clothing before the fights and after the fights. And then it became a business. And no, man, we've been doing very well. And it's a pride because, even, some of the phrases that I say, and more than a T-shirt, we sell. I'm trying to promote like because where does the Italian dream come from? There's one time I was listening to a Eminem song, and they were talking about the American dream, and I feel like the American dream is a concept that is way more established here in America, but not in Italy. Like in Italy, a lot of times you were born in one place, you stay there for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to promote this concept of from something to from nothing to something to everything, and that's the message. And we've been doing good. We're now it's been like over a year that it's been up, and I'm happy about it.
My great grandfather was born in Italy, and he moved to America, Ellis Island, that whole process, came to America. He worked in a coal mine, which is a really shitty job.
For sure.
You go underground and chipping away at some coal, some rocks, and bringing it up. And a lot of the men he worked with are dying early because you're inhaling these nasty things. And his main thing, this man from Italy, he said he don't want his children to do what he's doing. He don't want them to live this way. And he had that American dream, or as an Italian man that moved, wanted to do better. And then his kids were farmers and construction people, and they built things and so on and so on. And a few generations later, is unimaginable that when a person has that work ethic, or has that thought in their head for a few generations, what else can I do? What else could I do? What else could I do? That it'd be unimaginable to that man. His name was Giovanni. It'd be unimaginable to him to have the opportunities that we have, 100 years later. That to travel around on jets, to have the access of information we have, to have the opportunities, and that American dream is something that's most often embodied by immigrants, as people that came from other places, that they see opportunities here that there's not available in other parts of the world. And there's a lot of people that were born here that have opportunity all around them, and they don't do shit with it. They do nothing. And it's
in Italy we say, who has the bread doesn't have the teeth, and who has the teeth doesn't have the bread.
It makes good sense. So that Italian dream is something that for you to come here and embody that and show other people from your country and other people in Europe, of you said this earlier, there's a lot of people that they might have had better opportunities or more talent at some time than you do or than I did. But if you don't go do something with it, the people that are working hard, they're going to get the bread at the end. Teeth or no teeth, they're going to get the bread. For sure. And you got to be willing to get up, and if you want your piece of that American dream or that Italian dream apparel, I think you yourself and that brand that represents you is inspiring a lot of people in your home country, a lot of people in Europe, and I'm inspired. When I watched your fight with Costa, I was like, all right, this guy's. It made me want to talk with you. That I'm just like, all right, this is a tough man. That a lot of turmoil, a lot of things that came up, and a lot of people would have backed out of that fight, and you showed up and you did your thing like a professional, and I think really made a statement that stood out to a lot of people. If you haven't seen that fight, you should check it out. Obviously, go to his next fight. So he's a man that's determined to get that championship belt around his waist, and he's engaging in the behaviors that would lead to that type of outcome. So you're going to have to make a decision what kind of behaviors that you're going to engage in. And if you want to do better in business, if you want to learn how global markets function, if you want to learn about how to make money in real estate, if you want to learn about entrepreneurship, which you're going to need to know to be good at anything else in business, I'm happy to help you get your part of that American dream. But you're going to have to want to help yourself. You can't help somebody that don't want to help themselves. So you make a decision where you belong in the economy, make a decision if you're going to earn some of those champion outcomes. And, Marvin, thank you very much for spending the time.
Course,
a lot of things that you could do with your day, and thanks for coming here between sessions and sharing some of your story.
I was living on my coach's living room on a mattress. I ended up just bouncing at a bar. I'd been a cop, I quit my job. And
Derek Moneyberg presents 10 Commandments of Wealth.
Took the gamble on myself to become a successful professional fighter and make it to the UFC or Pride, and at the time. And
am I making a sacrifice right now, or am I just investing in a better future? So it's easier for me to make those decisions when I think about it as like, oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you mention it, having to actually really process and think about it, I think that word sacrifice is kind of like, I believe it's the word that the ones at the top kind of use to make everyone else feel better about it. Because when you're at the top, now you realize that was an investment.
Was everything just golden and easy and handed to you, or do you have a little struggle yourself along the way?
No. Yeah, in 2013 and 2015, I was living out of my car, full time, and I was too proud to ask for help. Like, how ridiculous is that? You're living out of your car and you think you know it all. And 2015, that's when I kind of I knew that I didn't know it all. So why not find experts in that and really shortcut that? I thought I was going to just chip away. I thought I was just going to read books till I was an expert. I never really talked to anyone that actually did it.
It's been about a week since I've joined the 10 Commandments of Wealth program, and there's so many interviews that are offered in this program. I'm inside the Derek Moneyberg 10 Commandments of Wealth program. This is an awesome program that you're gonna love. I'm gonna use the principles and the knowledge from this program to help me boost my leads in my marketing firm. Buy this program, it's a wonderful investment for your future. You won't regret it, and you'll absolutely love it.